Welcome to Chillin' with Ice with me, Lori Fetrick, or most of you know me as Ice from the American Gladiators. Thank you for joining me on this podcast where we're going to dive in and go behind the scenes on the #1 hit iconic show of the 90s. It's time to get up close and personal on what drove us to be gladiators, what challenges we faced, and how we overcame to reach all of our goals. I know in this first season, inquiring minds want to know, was there drama, fights, hookups? Are we all still friends? What did we do in our personal lives, and how are we staying in such good shape years later? Well, stay right here and let's get into Chillin' with Ice. Welcome back to Chillin' with Ice, and I'm very excited about today's episode, and I have my girlfriend April here with us today. Thank you so much for being here. And today's episode is going to be I'm excited about it because we are going to be reviewing the ESPN 30 for 30 doc.
Yep.
And there's a lot of things that I want to go over and clear up. And so let's kind of start with one thing. And that is, I don't believe the Netflix documentary did this as well. And that is, not one documentary actually even acknowledged the fallen gladiators.
Well, we don't know that yet, but...
Well, we do know about Netflix. ESPN did not.
Right.
Okay,
Which I'm surprised.
I don't think the Netflix did either, to be honest with you, after talking with Dan.
Yeah, I wonder why.
I don't know. It's the most bizarre thing.
Yeah.
So today's, the fallen gladiators, I mean, this is like Shelley Beatty, Siren. Tanya Knight recently passed away, Gold. Lee Rarman, Hawk. And then Billy Smith, Thunder. And that was like right after the ESPN documentary. So you would think that at the end of that, it would say something like, rest in peace, something.
Yeah.
Not a word.
Yeah, I was
just
surprised.
Like crickets. I mean, all these gladiators were very, very big role models. I mean, they really were.
Yeah.
Shelley Beatty, Siren, I mean, it's just amazing, her journey and how big she was in the American Gladiators. And then Hawk, I mean, come on. And then Tanya Knight, Gold, she was almost one of the originals. And Thunder. So yeah, I want to acknowledge.
Well, especially because he was in the documentary.
Yeah.
You would think
exactly
to remember him afterwards.
Right.
But
so that's one thing. I wanted to come in here and really kind of say that so that somebody does.
Yeah.
I just wanted to say that really quickly. The other thing is, let's get into why. Why are there two documentaries? Okay. A lot of people don't know the story because it's never been told. The story's not out there. And that is basically Johnny Ferrara, the creator of the show, called pretty much all of us one day and said, hey, guess what? Really excited. They're doing a documentary about me. Okay. And
wah, wah.
Well, my first thought was, really? About you?
Who are you?
Nobody knows who you are.
Yeah.
So that was the big kind of red flag. And that is, the documentary is probably going to be about us, Johnny.
Yeah.
Well, or it should be about us. So at that point in time, we listened to him. And then at the end of the phone call, it was like, and there's no pay. Again, 30 years later, and there's no pay again.
Yeah.
And we know you're getting paid. We know you're going to be getting something off this documentary. So that was kind of like one of the biggest reasons we were just like, I don't know. And if the documentary is truly about you, then why would we be doing it?
Well, and why was it called the American Gladiators documentary as well?
Yeah, after watching the documentary, the American Gladiator documentary is completely the wrong name.
Yeah.
Okay. So, but let's go back there. And that is when he called all of us and said that, we didn't know really what was going to happen. So then the producer from Vice, Ben, called all of us and kind of talked us into doing let's do some interviews and see how it goes. We don't even know where we're going yet. So they didn't even know where they were going to shop it and sell it. So we agreed to do the sizzle reel, which means like the really, the quick footage to see if he can get it, sold. And but we also said, in absolutely no way can you use this footage unless we have a contract in front of us and we get paid. And then there was that whole nobody gets paid for documentaries. Why?
Who said that?
Why?
Yeah.
You know, I had somebody say to me one time, well, if I tell you the sky is purple every single day, pretty soon you're going to believe me. And I guess that's what's kind of come down to the documentaries of why you don't get paid. I don't know. So anyway, we did that. And then we didn't hear from him for like 6 months, at least 6 months. And then at that point in time, Nitro, we didn't know this, but he was actually shopping another documentary in his story or whatever that may be. Mm-hmm. But he actually got Netflix on board. And Netflix came along and said, okay, we want to do the American Gladiator documentary. And by the way, we're going to pay you guys. So we're like, no brainer, let's do this. Boom, yay, we're excited. Mm-hmm. I kid you not, a week later, we got a call from Vice, Ben, and said, by the way, we sold it to ESPN, we're ready to rock and roll. And we're like, sorry, but it's a little too late. We already signed contracts with Netflix. So there was this whole political, kind of like hustle bustle. Oh my God, who do we have? Who do you have? Who do we have? The team got separated. Mm-hmm. And that is so unfortunate. Yeah. I was so upset and not happy about that. Just simply because of the fact we should have all stayed together as a team.
Well, that wasn't the first time that's happened either, right?
No, not at all.
Right.
So I want to say almost 3/4 of the team went to Netflix.
Yeah.
And that's the reason why, is because nobody wanted to do the Johnny Ferraro documentary. We wanted the documentary to be the American Gladiator documentary.
Yeah, and show, the energy of the show and
right,
the whole nostalgia of
as people,
American Gladiators.
And people saw the 30 for 30, obviously, documentary.
Yeah.
And after they saw it, they understood why we didn't do the Johnny Ferraro documentary. Mm-hmm. And yes, the name should have been, who the hell is Johnny Ferraro? or
the guy who,
or the birth of the American Gladiators.
Okay.
Something.
Yeah.
But no, this is not the documentary about the American Gladiators. So I wanted to get that out of the way because that's why there's 2 documentaries, unfortunately.
Okay.
Let's get into it for a second. And that is, do you realize there wasn't one gladiator on that show, on the 30 for 30, that went, oh my God, that was the best time of my life. I had so much fun. It was just, I was elated. There was nothing.
It was pretty ominous.
It was very dark.
Yeah. It was
very dark.
The dark side of the Gladiators. Like, it didn't show how much fun you guys had.
Well, it showed some of the clips.
A little bit.
Right.
A little bit. But it went dark pretty much the rest of the way.
So I'm going to be very transparent here and say this is the second time I've done this podcast, or April and I have done this podcast. The reason I came in here before to do the review of the ESPN doc, and honestly, the first time I watched it one time, came in here, I jumped the gun. And the reason we're redoing this again is because the first time I saw it, I was just like, oh my God, that was so cool. That was great. That was awesome. But here's the thing. There's 2 reasons why I said that. One, I got totally caught up in the nostalgia.
Yeah, I know.
And the clips and seeing the bus tour and all the footage and how amazing our life was.
Well, and they did a good job with the documentary, like overall. They did a good job with it, even though it was kind of like not what you would expect to see out of an American Gladiator.
Well, and the other thing is they did show that the side of Johnny Ferraro that Ben did a good job on.
Yeah, which
really,
needed to be told.
Right, talking about that side of it and how he was and everything. So again, I got to see that. Yeah. And so that's one of the other reasons why I was like, oh my God, that was awesome, and everything. Because I wanted, people saw that side of Johnny, you know, and there's no love lost between him and I, of course.
Yeah.
You can tell on that documentary.
He seems like a great guy.
I know, right? But at this, it's just unfortunate because the backgrounds, the weird cosmic kind of like weird
the moon and the galaxy.
Right. What was that? What was he trying to do with that? What was the purpose?
I don't know, showing the bigness of the show. I don't know, as opposed to the universe.
I don't know. And then they had like the weird backdrops, like he was in some kind of weird hotel.
Yeah.
And then it was like that big, ugly orange chair they put him in. And okay, you mentioned this like 3 or 4 times. What was up with his tie? Oh my God, I'm sorry, but that was the ugliest tie I've ever seen.
It was horrible, terrible for TV, especially.
I don't know who put him in that tie.
Yeah, I don't know.
Johnny. Anyway,
Johnny did. Maybe he got it at Venice Beach.
He got it where?
At Venice Beach.
When he was walking on the boardwalk. Yeah, but just, like you said, the overallness of it, I mean, it's kind of like the story. What was really, every time I was watching this and I'd be yelling at the TV or something, like, why did they do that? You kept going to me, they didn't have you guys. They didn't have all the gladiators. They had to come up with a story. Mm-hmm. So I think maybe Ben had the story in the very beginning.
Yeah, and it had to change because you guys decided not to do it.
Well, think about it. He went out and he took the sizzle reel and sold it to ESPN. He sold the Gladiators, all of us, to ESPN. And then when he came back, it was like, uh-oh, I don't have any Gladiators. Mm-hmm. What do I do? I just sold this show. So yes, he had to come up with something very quickly.
Yeah.
And make it worth, ESPN's their while, basically.
Well, it's like what Electra said. If you're going to do an American Gladiator documentary, why wouldn't you have, the most popular gladiators on the documentary?
Exactly.
So.
And then when Johnny came and goes, we don't need ice. We don't need nitro. Oh, and by the way, that recording, that little Lori Ice Fetrick's own words, that's not my voice
that was
whatsoever.
Some chick from Wisconsin or something.
Right? She had an accent.
Yeah.
That was not my voice. That was, that was nothing. I definitely have probably said those words, but not exactly like that.
No, it wasn't
your voice. I never said something like he walked around like he was God and he's not. No, I've never said those words before. So they even elaborated on that a little bit, which was terrible.
Yeah.
So yeah, didn't care for the background. Loved the clips, loved the nostalgia, that was my footage actually of the bus tour.
Yeah, that was cool to see.
And all that, because
Jim.
Yeah, that was mine. They actually bought that footage off me, which was great. Jim and his dancing.
Yeah.
Yay.
I loved it.
But even with the gladiators they interviewed, they seemed sad.
Yeah.
They seemed sad. They seemed regretful. They seemed, at least Gemini. Let's go with Gemini for a minute. He seemed very sad and regretful.
Yeah.
And he said, I've read on some of the social media, like, oh my God, I feel so sorry for Gemini and he missed out on so much family time. Dude, okay, let's clear this up. We filmed 1 month out of the year. 1 month. If he had a normal job, he would have missed way more shit with his family.
Yeah, that's true.
Autograph signings, we didn't have that many. We were fighting over the autograph signings, to be honest with you, to go out and get more exposure.
Yeah.
But I don't know. It was just like so regretful. Like, I missed my kid's soccer game,
Yeah, he was very emotional.
Yeah. Now, he did have a stroke. I have heard that. I haven't heard that from Gemini, but I have heard that he had a stroke. So that could possibly play into it a little bit. I don't know what he remembers, what he doesn't remember. But 1 month out of the year we filmed. That was the best job you could ever have for your family life. Let's put it that way. Okay, now we went on tour for 6 months.
Oh, maybe that's what he was talking about.
Yeah, but let's put it this way. He made so much damn money on that tour. that it was going to make it worth missing a couple soccer games. So I'm not quite sure why he was so sad and regretful. I mean, that was probably, I look back on the footage and when I was watching him and it was like, he was a big badass dude and he looked like he was having the time of his life. So I don't know what happened from now back then, from then to now. I don't know what happened.
Well, and they made Thunder look like, that he was that way because of the Gladiator show, though.
Okay,
which
so
I don't think he was, right?
On Thunder, okay. See, I brought this. Breaking this out. I brought this and I wrote this down because of the fact that I was talking with Laser, and Laser was talking with Thunder's wife, Francesca, and she was so pissed off. I'm not even going to say upset. She was so pissed off the way they portrayed Billy because I guess she wasn't there when they did the filming, and they were like, the producer and Ben was like, don't worry, I'm going to take care of it, and take care of him and show him in a good light. No, so this was I'm just going to read basically really quick what she was so upset about. She said, hold on, let's go. It's here. It says, Billy's wife was furious on how they portrayed Billy. They really showed him, they hated though, everybody hated, all gladiators, everybody hated the way they showed him so absolutely debilitated and walking around. And she said that it was like 2 to 3 months before the filming that he actually broke his shoulder and his hip. That didn't come from Gladiators. So his walking around like that, and she was pissed. It's like, they should have kept him on the couch and just did the interview. They shouldn't have showed him walking around and so debilitated. I can't even say the word, debilitated on that, And it says that they exploited his suffering as a side effect of the AG and his grief. Oh, and then here was the other thing. They made him out to be a really big drug addict. No, that wasn't Billy. That was not Thunder. He was not a drug addict. I mean, of course, the Gladiators and the injuries were bad. And yes, he had 7 herniated discs in his back. I mean, come on. Anybody's going to be suffering with pain. And give me any drug. I would be the same way. But the point of it is that she goes, the one thing they didn't say, and this is what I'm going to say here, is it says, Billy was a businessman, a teacher, a mentor. He rescued many animals. And for a 6-hour interview, they never mentioned any of that.
Yeah.
They didn't mention, and I know Billy was like that because I know on the tour, him and his wife or girlfriend at the time, Kathy, they were driving behind the bus because he was working. And he was like developing, I remember, some kind of like supplemental line or something like that at the time. So Billy was a great businessman. Like she said, a mentor, a teacher, rescuing animals on the farm. And they didn't mention shit about that. They just showed him suffering as a drug addict. And that was so sad.
And they didn't even honor him.
Yeah, they didn't even honor him at the end of it.
He passed shortly after that.
Very shortly after the 30 for 30. So that's one thing I wanted to say about Thunder. They didn't really highlight his glory at all. They showed him as a beaten down drug addict, debilitated, just so sad. But that was Ben's narrative. That was the director's narrative. That was, look what the Gladiators did. Look what the Gladiator show did to the Gladiators, basically.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's go with Malibu. Malibu only did 13 episodes, period. This documentary made him out like he did the entire season, everything, and no, he didn't. But the thing of it is that there's some things on there that didn't match up as well. And Jim Starr pointed these out to me. So by the way, this is also coming from other Gladiators, because I'm kind of speaking for them as well. And he was like, first of all, he was on the documentary and he said that he got hurt on the human cannibal and the doctor said, you cannot go back, because of concussion. Well, Jim was like, let's clear that up right away. That's a lie. I don't know, maybe it's not a lie about the doctor, but it's not about going back. After 13 episodes, they stopped production. They got rid of Malibu because he wasn't a good gladiator and he was losing all the time. They fired him. Period.
Maybe he was a character though, and
he was a
people
great
remember
character
him.
when he came around. But what I did not like is that, again, Ben's narrative, as far as what they were doing with gladiators and, what the gladiators did to them. They showed his home, okay? And I'm sorry, but it's almost like they took some things out of context to where it's just like they made everybody look like they were super poor, so sad.
I know.
They didn't need to show the room with the bunk beds where he lived. I mean, that was kind of weird and bizarre all at the same time.
Well, that could have been his house though, and like just a room. I mean,
he said he had a roommate. I don't know. It was just,
he could have just had a roommate though, and living at his house. Like,
it was super bizarre.
But it looked as though
that was his room, and he was living in a room with bunk beds.
Yeah, I know.
Right?
I know, yeah.
And the house looked like a little Cracker Jack box. And I mean, they did the whole like zoom out, zoom in. And it's like, no, I wouldn't want that. Why would you show that?
Yeah. And it's a shame because Thunder's not even going to be in the other one.
No, not at all. Whatsoever.
I mean, maybe in some footage, but I mean.
Right.
Thunder
will be in some footage. But, same thing with Malibu. He'll be in some footage and stuff. But they just portrayed him like he was just like, but again, they didn't have any gladiators. So they had to use what they had.
Yeah, I'm excited to see the Netflix one.
So
hopefully they did you guys better justice in the
I
Netflix
hope they
one.
did us justice. I know they showed us in a whole different light. So wasn't happy about that. Electra, I would have loved to seen more of her rock climbing. They didn't show anything behind the scenes with her.
Yeah.
Dallas, amazing on camera. They didn't use, she said they were there for 6 and 7 hours. They didn't show any footage of her kickboxing, her gym, anything outside of there. She did a great interview, but at the same time.
She's amazing on camera.
Yeah, but at the same time, it wasn't like, woohoo, yes, and she is like, out of all the gladiators, this girl is like, she has a tattoo. She has an American Gladiator tattoo on the back of her neck. So she is just like a diehard gladiator, And then I remember Johnny and they did say something in 30 for 30, something. He didn't want her to speak, maybe, I don't know. And she has nothing to do with gladiators. She had everything to do with gladiators, you know. So they could have shown her more. They could have had great footage there. And then Red. I love Red. I do. I wasn't happy with his interview. And you know what? He might have done an amazing interview, but they just didn't show it.
Yeah.
They probably did a 6 and 7 hour interview with him, and they just didn't show the highlights of Red.
Yeah.
And there's a couple things I didn't care about what he said, and it is what it is. And the whole thing about the soundbite they used.
Which one?
Johnny knows that nobody loves him as much as I do. I'm laughing. I'm sorry. I am laughing about that.
No, I was like, what?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, thanks for reminding me.
The only reason I say that is because I did get a little backstory on maybe why he does love Johnny is because maybe Johnny was the one that picked him up and brought him on tour. Mm-hmm. And then after tour, he came on the television show. Maybe that's why he loves Johnny. But at the same time, I don't think Johnny stands for what Red's all about. And there's absolutely no way. I mean, not to go there, but I'm going to go there for a second. And that is, he'd introduced me as his only white friend. Period. This is my only white friend. Really? What? Why would you say that? And maybe he was joking. I don't know, but I don't think he was. Johnny is the epitome of what Red's not about.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, absolutely.
Rich, white, male.
Yeah.
Okay. And Johnny could give a shit about Red whatsoever.
Well, Johnny
he was just a money making person for him, and that was it.
Well, yeah. I mean, Johnny cares about Johnny. That was very apparent to everyone watching it. And that's why also they did a good job showing it was about Johnny.
It was.
They showed,
and he was spot on when he said, the documentary's about me. Okay, we didn't believe him, but okay, it was. Maybe it wouldn't have been if we were all on it.
Right.
Let's put it that way. So part one, kind of bizarre, kind of weird. The lighting made him look sad, ominous, dark, not a happy moment. Part two of 30 for 30, I found it absolutely grueling to sit and watch it.
Cringeworthy.
I don't know. Give me something else that I could have rather done. I mean, who gives a shit about his childhood and where he grew up? And it was uncomfortable to watch. Like when he went into certain areas, like when he was back home and nobody knew who he was, he was just kind of like, "Don't you know who I am? Don't you know who I am?"
Who's
they're
that?
like, "No, not really." And it was just so uncomfortable. Even I was uncomfortable. I was uncomfortable for him. Let's put it that way.
Well, that's why he wanted you to do his documentary. So people would know who he is.
Look, the story needed to be told as far as the Dan Carr, the two creators fighting against one another. But at the same time, 2 hour and a half shows about that.
Yeah.
Part two was just grueling for me to sit through, but I forced myself to sit through it. First of all, I mean, half the time I couldn't even watch him. I mean, remember that one scene? He was like sitting like back like this, and he looked like a vampire. Yeah. The way they did his makeup and the way he was sitting and the lighting and everything, they literally made him look like the vampire. And I was just like, oh my God.
I like the scenes with I forgot his name. His opposing
Dan.
Yeah.
Dan Carr.
Yeah.
Right.
I liked his segments on him telling his side.
Absolutely.
I did
like I
like
said, that all needed to come out and be told because that was complete, utter bullshit, what Johnny did do. Now, as gladiators, we all knew what was going on. We all knew who Dan was. So when they were going through, do you know who Dan Carr is? Do you know who Dan Carr is? And they were like, no, Dan who? Bullshit. Every single gladiator knew the story between Johnny and Dan. Every one of us did. I don't know. So that needed to be told, and I'm super glad that got out there.
Yeah.
And as narcissistic as Johnny is, and yes, he is a narcissist. It's all about Johnny. It was really strange because the story goes from, I don't give a shit what you think about me, literally, and they played the song, and I'm sure that he's sitting back at home watching that scene going, that's a great scene. When he was, Ben was mocking him.
I know.
Mocking him.
Yeah, because he was like, you going to tell the right story?
Yeah.
And Ben's like, the right story?
Right, exactly.
Yeah.
And then the whole weird song came on and he was walking around. But it's very strange how it went from, I don't care what you think about me. And at the end of it, it was like, well, I hope everybody doesn't think I'm such a douchebag because I did the right thing by Dan Carr now. You know what I'm saying? It was just like, are you kidding me?
Yeah.
Just because you think you came clean, which you did not, because on social media, I'm listening to all these things, and every single person was like, he was pleading the fifth constantly. He never answered the questions.
He did it because he was doing the documentary. There was no other reason, it seemed, that if he would have done it like years ago or like, but.
Yeah, it was just something that just didn't work, But he probably sat back and went, God, this is a great documentary. And then let's go into like when he had no respect for gladiators. He treated us like we were just disposable items. Like he even said in the documentary, we could put helmets on them and it doesn't matter. And we're still going to make the show and it's still going to be a big hit. He's talking about his brand. Well, at the very beginning of the documentary, I'm not quite sure who said it, but they were like, each gladiator was their own brand. And we were our own brand.
Yeah.
I was a brand. Nitro was a brand.
Yep.
Laser was a brand.
You all had your
Zap
own,
was
you
a
all
brand.
had
We all
your
had
own fans.
Our own personalities, our own fans. And so we were a brand within a big brand.
Yeah.
So when the little brands inside went away, it collapsed.
Well, he was very protective of his brand.
And he was very protective of his brand. But the problem was, and that was the other thing that I hated that Red said, well, would you let anybody play with your baby? It's just like, Red, why would you even say that? You didn't know any of the circumstances. You knew nothing of what was going on. We were trying to keep the brand alive. Mm-hmm. And since we were a brand, why would we do anything to hurt the Gladiator brand?
Yeah.
We wanted to enhance and we wanted to do good things because we were doing it for our brand.
You couldn't even do autograph signings in your uniforms and stuff.
No.
I mean,
no, they wouldn't allow anything like that.
Yeah.
Nothing. And then the other thing is that he acted as though he didn't give a shit about what he acted like he didn't understand why nobody liked him. Well, if he would have came across in the very beginning, okay, because he really had no say-so on who they chose as gladiators. He didn't have really any say-so on what games they created. Once he literally not sold or licensed or however it works, the name of the show to the production company, boom, that was it for him. He was just now getting paid. So if Johnny would have come across to the Gladiators like just nice,
at least acted like he was advocating for you guys somewhat in some way. Yeah.
Right.
But instead he said, what did he say on the bus or something like that to you?
Oh, that was on the tour. But
oh, yeah.
But before that, if he would just come across like, hey, I know that you feel like you're not being taken care of. Let me see what I can do for you. Even though he couldn't do shit, just pretend.
Yeah.
Because we would have liked you more.
Yeah.
If you would have actually respected us and actually just acted as though you liked us. Mm-hmm. Let's put it that way. And we weren't your commodity.
Yeah.
We weren't that just selling he didn't give a shit about us.
Right.
That attitude is why nobody liked him. We were on tour and I remember standing backstage and he was standing next to me and we were probably like 2 weeks out, done, because we already toured for like 5 months or something like that. And he literally looked at me and said, you might have made a lot of money on this tour, but I got wealthy. Who says that?
Yeah, I don't know.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's like you don't shove your money in the faces of people who aren't making any money.
Because of you.
But we're out there busting our ass.
Yeah, like a Scrooge, big time.
There you go. Mm-hmm. Oh my God, that's exactly what he came across, is like Scrooge.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So that's why nobody wanted to work with him. Nobody, 30 years later, it's like if he would have been the guy that we were like, oh, Johnny's an awesome guy. He's our creator. Yeah, we really like Johnny. If that documentary would have came around and he would have been like, hey, you guys are doing it, we would have been like, oh, absolutely. We'd love to do the documentary with you. But because he was such a dick, to all of us, most of us, that why would we want to do anything for you?
Well, it was because he had his small little circle.
Oh, a small little circle of friends
that only a douchebag would say. I know a couple of those douchebags that actually said that.
So here's the thing, and then let's go into there was I don't know if he was a producer or not. Aton. Mm-hmm. Let's clear this shit up real quick here. Aton came in and said, "I walked into the Gladiator locker room and there were syringes all over the floor." There's a drug fest. They were doing steroids, like massive amounts, It's like, that's not how, no. First of all, no, and no. It didn't happen. Flat out
like the orgy thing on the bus or whatever.
The orgy thing on the bus. We'll go there in a second. But, okay, so yes, we do talk about steroids. Yes, a lot of gladiators admitted doing steroids. But here's the thing. You don't bring your steroids to work with you.
And throw them all over the floor.
Right. Here, let me inject you in the... And the other thing is, it's not all steroids are injectable. That's the other thing. They're pill form. Mm-hmm. I mean, come on, dude. Don't be an idiot.
Yeah.
And why would you lie like that?
Because it made interesting TV for people to hear.
Yeah. The Gladiators were pissed when they saw that and heard that. It was just like such a lie.
Yeah.
What was your question now? Before that, you said something about... I forgot what you were talking about, and I said, we'll go there in a minute. But
On the bus.
Oh, on the bus. Oh, yeah. When Brian Gadinsky goes, there's Gladiator and Gladiator and Gladiator and Contender, and they were all just having a big orgy. And then it showed Jim on the bus with his pants down. I mean, yeah, great timing. But no.
So you're saying there were no orgies?
No, there was no orgies. Yeah, there were hookups. Come on. We were together for 8-9 years, and there was hookups, and Gladiators were hooking up with Contenders. And I mean, it is what it is. It just happens.
Yeah. You're in your 20s, you're in your best shape. Steroids are involved.
Oh my God, right? Your sex drive is high. You look amazing. You're traveling the world.
You're touring like rock stars.
We're rock
literally.
stars. Everybody loves us. I mean, come on. Why wouldn't we have the time of our lives?
Sex, drugs, muscles, and
we did.
Yeah.
We did. No regrets. I could say 99.9% of the Gladiators have no regrets. Every one of the Gladiators on my podcast, I talk about this and go, would you do anything different if you knew it was going to end? And every single one says no. No. Because it was an amazing ride. And damn it, they didn't show that. They didn't say that. They did nothing. So I'm hoping I think the Netflix documentary will show that, because we're so excited to do that documentary.
I know. Yeah. I hope they really told the story the way it should have been told for you guys.
Oh, absolutely.
Because you guys deserve it. Yeah.
Okay, so I wrote some notes. I just want to make sure that I hit on everything on this one, because we're not coming back to redoing this one. I refuse to do that. We talked about that. We talked about the best times of our lives. We talked about the Aton. Oh, what was with the random big-ass bodybuilders they were showing on the show? What was that? And who were they? And who cares?
I don't know. I have no idea.
Was it... I think they brought him on to prove the point. I don't know, something like, because they were talking about steroids.
They had to fill certain amounts of time, so they had to throw stuff in.
Who were they?
Because,
Oh my God, that was annoying. And then the little old man that Johnny knew. Johnny didn't steal the idea from Dan.
Well, how many of you were supposed to do it that didn't do it? Think about all that time they had to fill and put stuff in.
12.
12 of you were supposed to do it?
12 of us were supposed to be doing that doc.
So they had to fill that much time
left
with
and
other...
went to Netflix. Yep.
Yeah.
You're absolutely right. So I guess they had to get random bodybuilders here and there and go, hey, can you talk? And then, yeah. And I'm sorry, but I've got to say this too. The Gladiators were laughing when they had Mike O'Hearn come on, and he was the alternate, and he was like, Mike goes... They didn't want me in the show because they knew I would take his job or take one of their jobs or something like that. And the Gladiators were laughing. They were like, really, Mike? Okay. Mike's a good guy, but they weren't too happy about that one. Hit that. Let's see. What else did I not go over? We talked about his brand. We talked about Red, the birth of the Gladiators. It's so funny. What else did you see that, as far as, Two Scoops.
Oh.
Two Scoops was funny as shit. I loved him.
That was a good segment. Yeah.
He literally was the only one on there that was like super happy and just like, making jokes and shit. Yeah. I mean, and that's what it is. I don't know what happened to Red. I mean, 30 years has gone by. A lot happens to a person in 30 years. But God, the Red that I knew back on the show and then on the tour, he was cracking jokes all the time, and he was happy and he was living life. And I remember that about him. And when I saw him on the doc, he just seemed like so kind of like,
well, that's how they probably edited and portrayed him.
Yeah, I guess
just like the rest of them.
Yeah, I guess so. But that's not, I can't say that's not him, because, he could have changed over the last 30 years.
Well, they showed him with Two Scoops, and that was a good story.
Absolutely. Two Scoops, first of all, I didn't know about the car injury, about the car blowing up and him. Oh my God, that's insane.
Horrible.
I had no idea.
Wow.
But he was just an amazing contender, along with him and Peggy Odita. So his story was fun, light. I just so enjoyed it.
Yeah,
I so enjoyed Two Scoops and his interview. And Mike Adamle. Mike Adamle was the heart and soul of this show, literally.
Yeah.
And he got like maybe 20 seconds?
Yeah.
Come on.
Yeah.
And I know Mike's in a bad position. I think he has dementia. And I know that it's probably it's hard to talk with him. Possibly, I don't know. But I'm sure they could have pulled together some more. I'm not quite sure if he's on the Netflix. I hope he is. And I hope they give him more time because Mike Adamle was just the shit.
Yeah.
So I'm really I was really disappointed with they didn't show anything like that.
The director was funny. What's his name? Was he the director of the Gladiators or
oh my God.
Levy?
Bob Levy.
He was funny.
Oh, it was so random. When he came on and just started burping and everything, it's just like, what? But it kind of it was kind of light.
Yeah.
It kind of lightened up the mood. I want to say, I guess, I don't know. He was funny, but then it was kind of sad because they kind of made fun of him a little bit when he said, I was the only director in Hollywood that was having the most fun.
Yeah.
And I knew what he was talking about.
Yeah.
But he was kind of cute and funny. But I was talking to some of the other gladiators and I said, hey, this is what I'm doing. Do you have anything that you want to put your 2 cents in? And pretty much after looking at these notes here, same thing. They all said the same thing. I had people coming up to me in the gym. It was yesterday. A guy comes up because I posted a photo that Netflix put up of me on the cover art. Coming soon, and I was like, yes, I made it. I made it. Cool. And I'm working out in the gym yesterday, and a guy comes up and goes, he just hands me his phone and my photos there. He goes, I am so excited about this. He goes, I watched 30 for 30. I didn't understand why you guys weren't on it, and now I do understand why.
Yeah.
You guys weren't there because you went to Netflix. Of course, they're not going to say that on the ESPN 30 for 30, but they made it sound like they didn't want us.
Yeah.
Xing us out. I mean, really.
So it's kind of like good that ESPN was first and then Netflix is after.
I don't know. I don't know. I thought it was going to be kind of like the appetizer, to the Netflix. But a lot of people are very still confused and they're thinking this was the only documentary there is.
Well, more people are going to know about the Netflix because everybody watches Netflix. There's only probably a way smaller percentage of people.
Yeah, there's a handful of people that watch like the 30 for 30. And that was one of the main reasons why, when I called the Gladiators together when we were negotiating this whole thing. And I said, do you really want to do this documentary? No pay. We have no idea where they're going to sell it. Let's hypothetically, at that point in time, say they're going to sell it to Netflix. How are you going to feel when you're sitting on your couch and millions of people are watching this documentary and they're lining their pockets with money and you're like sitting on your couch and you could barely afford to pay your mortgage? Mm-hmm. Again, 30 years later. We should have been set up for life being on that show for 8 and 9 years.
You should have, yeah.
And what we did. But then they said, we didn't want, when they were talking about holding out. So that's one thing I will say. There was a handful of us that after we came back from the tour and we filled Madison Square Gardens and we filled Nassau Coliseum, we did realize how big the show was. And that's when Dan and Michael Horton, Jim and I decided, hey, let's call a meeting. We need to get merchandising rights. Okay. So it was literally us three. And I thought that we were going to try to get the whole team. Mm-hmm. If I would have known what I know now back then, I would have never held out with them. The reason why is because you can't take just 3 of 10 gladiators and hold out for money. You need at least 6, if not 7. Mm-hmm. So I don't understand why they didn't go for the whole team. They should have had Laser, Zap, there was Nitro, Gemini, myself, and I don't know, another one, Sky, Diamond,
Sky,
any of them, Saber, any of those gladiators. They should have had at least 6 or 7 of them. Then we could have had more, clout to hold on to, and we might have gotten merchandising rights.
Yeah.
But I do regret that.
Yeah, it's unfortunate.
I would have never held out knowing that there was like only us 3, So it is what it is. We all still stand by. We should have gotten something, some kind of merchandising, something.
Yeah.
But they treated us just like,
or at least insurance.
Who cares? Oh, I know. Exactly. No insurance. No nothing. The most underpaid television show on the air. Everybody knows
the most physical and breaking bones, and it was real. It wasn't,
yeah, it was
like
real.
wrestling. It was that you guys were getting messed up.
Right. And then when the NBC one came along and they tried to do the reboot, they didn't want anything to do with us. They should have had either kind of like, and let's go there for a second, because I've been listening to the UK podcast, and it's really interesting how it's like they're just falling in line with what's happening here in the United States. I didn't realize that. And that is our show, when we ended our show, they went 1 year late. They went another year. Okay, so they extended their season another year, so they were on longer. And then that show went away. And then when we rebooted here, NBC, I didn't know this, but they rebooted back in the UK. I had no idea. And just like they had water here, they had water in the UK. And apparently, ours didn't last here. Neither did theirs. Each one was, ours was only 1 season. I think they got 2 seasons out of theirs. But now here's the interesting thing. They're rebooting it again today. They've already picked all their gladiators. It's on social media. And I think they were supposed to do it here again, but that's when Vince McMahon kind of like something happened and he was supposed to do it with the gladiators, and it kind of didn't happen because he did something wrong. So I don't know where that's at right now, to be honest with you. But that was really interesting how they follow suit on that kind of thing. Now, I was listening to their podcast, and there's all kinds of merchandising and everything. And they had more merchandising than we had. I don't know if they got anything over there. I don't know if they got any merchandising points.
You should ask.
I will. I'll ask, because I'm going to have Jet on my podcast. She agreed to do it, which I'm really excited about. Just fun, kind of compare the two, versions of the UK and ours. But yeah, that was kind of strange. I didn't realize they fell in, side by side like that.
Well, they should have them. Are they going to have any of them on the show, on the reboot?
Okay, that's the other thing there. Thank you. That's what they were talking about. And like, Jet was like, they were like, well, would you want to be a host? I guess they already had 2 of the hosts. And she's like, well, how about being a 3rd host? And I could be with the gladiators. I know the games, and I could talk about the games with the gladiators behind the scenes. I thought that's a great idea.
Which is what I thought they would do with the last reboot with you guys, which made sense.
Right. Didn't want anything to do with us whatsoever.
It would have been really cool to have you guys on it. And I think all the fans would agree.
100%.
Yeah.
We've talked about that in the podcast before, but they didn't want anything to do with it. So I'm not quite sure what's going to happen if they reboot it again. Let's put it this way. Anybody who wasn't on Johnny's documentary, The Gladiators, you're dead to him now. So basically, if there was any chance whatsoever, it's gone.
Well, you were kind of dead to him to begin with, so I don't think it really matters by the sound of the way things went for you guys. But.
Exactly. He didn't like me, and you know what? I didn't care for him too well. It is what it is. But so that's my take on the ESPN doc. I think that I was disappointed after I sat back and really watched it a second time.
I think a lot of the gladiators were.
A lot of the fans were disappointed too, because they were like, "Where are the rest of the gladiators, and why aren't they getting into their lives? Who cares about this man and the creator and his life and where he was born?" And they really went into detail. They were like, "Wait, no, we don't know this man. We don't give a shit about this man. We're the gladiators." So that's they're going to see that on the Netflix coming up on the 28th. So that's going to be a lot of fun.
Yeah. I'm excited to see it.
I know. Did we miss anything?
I don't think so.
As far as the review.
Unless you had other reviews from other.
No, I mean, I think I spoke for, I said things that came from other gladiators. I don't know. And then other social media. I mean, definitely social media. I haven't seen one good thing on social media. Everybody's literally apologizing to us on social media. Like, wow, we're so sorry you had to go through that. We had no idea.
Yeah.
You know, it's not, don't feel sorry for us. I mean, it is what it is. It's the job. But again, we had the best time of our life on that show. And we would all do it again. And even being my age right now, if they said, do you want to go back and try it again? Hell yeah, let's try it again.
With all your injuries and everything.
Hell yeah, everybody. I can barely my lower back get out of bed now, but hell yeah, let's do it again.
We'll take our fish oil and get out there.
I know. But going forward, I mean, the podcast, I'm really happy with the podcast, the way it's going, and the interviewing the gladiators. And that's been just so much fun.
Yeah.
Are there any episodes that actually stand out that you actually like more so than any of them?
I'm actually excited for Stephanie to come out.
Okay, well, Stephanie's not a gladiator. So.
Well, I know, but you know. She's just awesome.
Okay, so what I'm going to be doing with the podcast going forward is, yes, I'm going to get, a UK gladiator. I have a couple other gladiator, coming here. I got to get Diamond. I got to get Nitro. They've been super busy, but what I'm going to do is it's going to start transitioning. Okay. And I just want to start, interviewing like literally fascinating people.
Yeah.
I met a girl that she said that she would do my podcast, and she was on the American Idol. That was really cool. I have Stephanie Wolf coming up, and she is my hormone doctor. And we talk about sex and hormones and all that kind of fun stuff, guys and girls. So it's kind of starting to transition. So I'm really excited about where the podcast is going.
Yeah.
So I just want to let people know that as well.
Yeah, it's going to be good.
Yeah. So, hey, I think that we did our job here today and talked about it, and it was fun.
Yeah.
It was fun, as always.
Yes.
As always. I love podcasting.
Yeah, you're good at it.
Thank you. So tune in. Watch the Netflix documentary coming up on the 28th. That's my little 2 cents on the ESPN 30 for 30. Overall, okay, good. Anything with gladiators, I think it's awesome. It just puts our name out there more and more. So thank you so much for listening to Chillin' with Ice. Until next time, we'll see you later. Thank you so much for listening to Chillin' with Ice. And don't forget to hit that like button, subscribe, and share wherever you listen to your podcast. Remember to follow us on Patreon and YouTube at Chillin' with Ice. And on Instagram and TikTok, you can follow me at lori.ice.fetrick. I look forward to chilling with you next time here on Chillin' with Ice.